name's Alison. I work here in the Antiques Department at Fellows Auctioneers.
Hi, my name's Cordelia and I'm a research coordinator here at Fellows.
We thought we'd talk to you this afternoon about some of the quite, well, I'm biased, but the very pretty arts and crafts ceramics that we have included in our sale next week, which is the 29th of November. We've pulled out a little selection here of what we would loosely term as arts and crafts ceramics.
So the arts and crafts movement kind of began in the mid to late 19th century as a reaction against the Industrial Revolution, when people wanted to have like handcrafted items rather than things with machines. It's kind of founded on the principles of William Morris, who you probably know quite well. He's very famous.
When we look at ceramics from this period, one of the key sort of giveaways that they date to this age is that they're usually hand-painted, handcrafted, hand-painted, and all of the examples here we have a hand element to them. The Ruskin pot here is quite sweet. So this is made at the Ruskin pottery in Smethwick, so not a million miles from where we are today. And this is a really good example of early 20th century, what we term art pottery. Very briefly, Ruskin pottery is founded by Edward Taylor, who was principal at the Birmingham School of Art. His son William takes over the factory in about 1905 and runs with this idea of developing glazes. And what we have here is a souffle glaze with this really lovely hand-painted wax resist on the top. So it sort of reveals this little garland to it. All of the glazes that Ruskin were producing at this period of time were considered unique. They were taking lots of influence from the Far East and from China, but they were glazes that were never replicated. What makes this little piece perhaps more interesting is that we have a hallmark silver cover here. Now, the cover is hallmarked for A.E. Jones. The relationship between House and Taylor and A.E. Jones was a strong one that was formed through decades of working together. And actually, when House and Taylor closed the Ruskin factory in 1933, A.E. Jones bought essentially the remainder of the factory. So we see a lot of glaze techniques being developed at this time, but we also have a lot of hand-painted wares being produced, particularly these type of tiles.
So these tiles here were made by William de Morgan. The de Morgans are one of my favourite couples from the Victorian period because they're just so interesting. I recommend going and reading about them if you can. But William de Morgan himself was very good friends with William Morris, who kind of introduced him to the arts and crafts movement. So this is lot 53 and it is a tile panel by de Morgan. They do, as you can see, go together to form one continuous pattern. De Morgan drew a lot of inspiration from Middle Eastern, Renaissance, Persian kind of motifs, and we also see a lot of floral motifs in his work. Surprisingly, during his lifetime, he wasn't actually very well known for his pottery. It didn't do financially very well, and it was bankrolled mostly by his wife, Evelyn. And during the Victorian period, he was actually most well known for being an author. But today, he is definitely most famous for his pottery, which you can see in museums all around the country and in fact the world.
And what's really good about this tile panel is William de Morgan is widely collected. But the price difference from a tile panel to, say, for example, a bowl or a charger can be several noughts. So if you can't afford the higher end of his sort of pottery producing, you buy a tile. You have a hand-painted design that's as beautifully fired as the next piece, or as a bowl, or as a charger, or as a dish, but as I say, is a tenth of the price. And it's a great way to own a piece by this artist that isn't going to cost you the earth.
So Alison is actually a ceramic specialist. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Well, please do.
Ceramics.
On the spot.
So as you said, that tiles are a very good introduction to buying ceramics and arts and crafts pieces. What do you think makes a piece particularly collectible, or how would you recognise a collectible or valuable piece?
So when we talk about arts and crafts ceramic, really what we're looking at in many ways is who made them and who decorated them. And also what you're looking for is the skill in that decoration and then how well it's fired. So for example, this Bermentof's vase here is a really good example. To me, you can certainly see the influence of the sort of designers on each other because you have this sort of slightly Persian motif. But if you look at this vase ever so slightly, do you see it sort of a little bit smudged, a little bit runny, which means that it hasn't fired as perhaps a well-lit example that was in the same kiln would have done. So this does affect its sort of value because the collectors will argue that it isn't as crisp as perhaps the next. But then when you have a look here at this piece, so this is made at the Dalton Files Works, and again this is hand painted. The detail and the level in this is really second to none, and yet not held in quite a high regard because it's almost seen as sort of traditional Victoriana rather than arts and crafts.
I was going to say, I don't really recognise this to be particularly arts and craftsy.
Yeah, it adheres to the same principles and it's the same sort of period, but it sort of falls perhaps more so into this idea of Victorian, almost sort of chintz rather than designed and of the period.
Out of these 4 pieces, which one do you think you would like to own the most?
Oh my gosh. I think it'd have to be the Ruskin.
With it?
I love the De Morgan tiles, I love the Berbatov tiles, and I actually really quite like the Dalton. But I think when I think about how important Ruskin was to the development of some of these early glazes and the fact that he destroyed all of his recipe books on his death, the fact that this little rare survivor has survived is a testament to the way that it's potted and the way that it was, the regard that it was held in. And actually it's a shame that, I mean, you're very welcome to come and view, but to hand it's very light, it's very delicate, and I just think it's very subtly, just very pretty. But I wouldn't argue if you wanted to gift me any of these pieces. So these items here will be included in our 29th of November Fine Art and Antique sale, the catalogue of which is available on our website now.
Thank you for watching.